24 in 24, a series by Whiteboard Education and Research Foundation in association with Deltron Technologies. It is an absolute pleasure to have you all join us today as we continue our journey to bridging the gap between the education and the corporate. Once again, we are back with our enriching sessions, and this is your host, Ritambara. Today, we have truly exciting and insightful session lined up for you all, that is automation in HR. So I would like to extend a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Ms. Payal Behel, who will be sharing our insights on automation in HR in today's webinar. Ms. Behel, this is the HR director. She's a HR director of Salmon Tech Minds India Private Limited, and brings with her all her health of experience in the field of HR. We are truly grateful to have her expertise and knowledge to share with us today. Thank you, Ms. Behel, for joining us, and we extend to hear from you. I encourage each and every one of you to actively participate and engage with our esteemed speaker and seize this opportunity to deepen your understanding. Without further ado, please join me in extending a warm welcome to Ms. Payal Behel. The virtual stage is all yours, ma'am. Also, I just want to inform you that everyone's mic is muted. So if there is any query, you can write in the chat box. Please go ahead, ma'am.
All right, thank you for the introduction and the welcome, Ritambra. I would want to start with, welcoming everyone to the session. And this is definitely going to be an insightful session to know how HRs have been functioning across in terms of various aspects of their work and, not going by the jokes around the HR for not being not having much work. Rather, HR has a lot to do on their plate. So HR automation has become rather imperative for all of us. Okay, and the more we automate HR, the better it gets for HR to manage their usual regular jobs. Okay, so not taking more time, I would want to get started with my presentation here. Okay, around HR automation. So let me just share my screen. I hope my screen is visible. Ritambra would want
Yes,
you to
yes,
acknowledge
yes, it
that.
is. Yes,
And it's
yes.
moving fine.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. So we are talking about automating HR. Okay, I have primarily divided this into three steps. Okay, so automating HR, three-step towards creating a more engaging world of work. Okay, so we would want to start with something that HR ultimately works around with. So as we say, our people are the most valuable assets. Okay, it is not just for the heck of saying, rather they are, because we know how difficult it has become or how competitive it has become in out there in the talent market. Okay, this is not just a bona fide cliche that we hear, but actually the people or say being in the service industry, for sure I would say that people are the most valuable assets that any organization owns as on date. Okay, so HR's job is not just to find those, but to add those people onto the company, nurture them, create a workplace where they can thrive and be happy. Okay, so by this job becomes really critical to the organizations, and the HRs to do it with their all their heart and be able to do it flawlessly, it will take a lot for sure. So HR departments are overwhelmed with processes and paperwork. Okay, I come from a CMMI level 3 organization wherein there are set processes going by which we work. Okay, and following each of them, or say abiding by each of the processes, becomes a task, especially with the kind of paperwork we possess. Okay, so it is rather, like I said, very important and critical for our function to automate things so as to avoid errors in the long run. Okay. So automation can take over a lot of work that can free the talent teams to focus on connecting with and supporting the people that make the business better. Okay. So even though HR is a people centric discipline, automation can make it more people focused, which is that we automate the repetitive and the laborious tasks of HR and move forward with the more strategic ones and contribute where we as humans do really matter and add value, is what I would say. So the first part, I have primarily divided this into three segments. Okay, one is, okay, so HR functions in talent acquisition, then we have HR operations, and then there's compensation and benefits. So these are the primary three segments that, uh, whatever the scale of a company be, they will definitely have it. They will need HR to hire, they will need HR to manage people, manage the entire life cycle of the employees that are there in the system, and then they will need HR to ensure that the compensation and benefits are designed appropriately to satisfy the requirements of the employees that they are hiring. Otherwise the employees are definitely not going to join in. Okay. So these are three crucial parts. However, larger organizations have further divisions onto the same, and HR has become more of a HR business partner now. Now we see that HR is ever evolving, and they have come up as HR business partners and not just being the usual operational HR that they used to be in the past. Okay, so it's much more than the administrative work and the paperwork. So we'll take it forward with talent acquisition, which is the very first thing that happens. Okay, so finding and recruiting the people who will make a difference to the business is again the most critical function, as uh, deemed to be or as expected to be from the company's aspect. When they talk of HR, when the management talks of HR, it's more about getting people on board, which adds value. Okay. However, HR operations is equally important, and retention comes from their aspect. We'll talk of that later. We will start with talent acquisition here. So it is a precious commodity that's in high demand, and HR professionals know that there's a finite supply. Every skill, every particular, say, niche has a finite supply of the appropriately or rightly skilled candidates. It is important to connect with a pool of qualified potential candidates, and especially zeroing on the right ones. Okay, so every organization wants to have the right fit, or say the right kind of people which fit their requirement. Every organization has a different requirement, not that there would be the same person who's good with one particular job fitting into all organizations into that particular role only. Okay, it is a finite supply, and the requirement also varies. So it is important that we match both the requirement and the candidate, as well as the candidate's aspirations in line. Now, while we do all of this, the human connect comes in, wherein we talk of the requirement as well as the candidate's aspirations. However, there's a lot of paperwork involved
Hi,
while people.
Payal.
Yeah.
Actually, your slides are not working.
Okay, so what slide do you see right now?
First one.
That's what I asked in the beginning. Okay, I'll reshare again.
Sure.
Now I've shared my entire screen, so I hope it's visible.
Yes,
Ritambra,
fine.
please confirm. Which slide do you see
Yes,
right now?
it is written our people are most valuable asset.
Correct, correct. And further,
But it's here the good news automation can take over.
Yeah, right, right. So I have already reached the talent acquisition slide as per me, but then yes, to show herein I mentioned the people are the most valuable assets, and HR's job is to find that asset, nurture it, and create a workplace where it can thrive. Okay. So automation we were talking about, and we've already moved to talent acquisition here. So as I was talking, talent acquisition, there's a finite supply of people, and our job is to find the right ones and connect them appropriately with the organization, as well as fit them into the requirement. Okay. So when we talk of automating tasks on talent acquisition, it begins with something I mean, as say, crucial as screening. So there's a lot of CVs that we receive. There are a lot of resumes that come to us for one particular job. Now the HRs that are posting these job advertisements, it becomes really difficult for them to scrutinize the CVs by looking into each one of them. So there are scope, I mean, or say there are chances wherein they just look up the subject, the key skills that are, highlighted, and just get over with the CV, which increases the chances of multiple relevant people are also getting rejected who might have not showcased their skills on the top line. Okay. So to reduce these chances, it is rather suggested that we take help of automation tools which can help us scrutinize the CVs by asking specific questions, maybe, or say by, you know, going by a simple test, which is a logical test or an aptitude test. There are so many automation tools which will ultimately provide you results, providing you the appropriate CVs, which wherein your job is to not scrutinize hundreds of CVs, but to come down to maybe the 20 appropriate ones which match your requirement. Okay, so that is how drastically automation can reduce, or say, curb the gap, or say the job can be done easily, way more easily. Okay. So after all the scrutinizing is done, we move forward, we push the CVs into the interview process. Now when it goes into the interview process, it is extremely important for us to ensure that there is communication between us and the candidate. Now talking to these, say, 30-40 candidates all together can again be a task for the particular recruiter working on that position. And it's not just about that one position that the recruiter is handling. At times many of the recruiters usually have about 2 to 3 positions that they are simultaneously working on, to the minimum lines I'm talking about. Okay, and they handling the vendor chunk is altogether another story. Okay, so when we talk of 2 to 3 positions being handled by the same person, it does definitely become uh, a task to be communicating with the candidate, then further communicating with the interview panels, and then further communicating for the feedback again to the candidates and the vendors, whoever is pushing in the CVs, etc. Okay. So but the candidate's experience also matters here, because they uh, say make an image of the organization based on the kind of communication that happens from the organization with them, and how responsive the organization has been to them. Again, automation here also plays a very vital role, wherein, based on the interview scheduling or the interview process, there are automated communications that can reach out to the candidate to let them know of the stage that they have reached. It is equally important to let them know that if they have been, rejected, or say they have been put out of the process, for now we might not be continuing with their application because we are probably preferring somebody else over them. Okay. So this first hand experience does matter. So as I mentioned here, after all, the candidate experience is the first step in the employee experience. If that candidate happens to be your employee, that is the first step, that is the first image, and they will join you based on their experience in the organization in the very initial phase. So some people like the uh, technical questions asked in the interview process. There are some who like the HR interaction in the interview process, the way they are addressed, the way they are treated across in the interview process, based on which they make their decision of joining a particular company, contrary to some other that they may also be interviewing with. Okay, so herein again automation, because not it's not possible for humans to get back to each and every person in time. There are high chances of error there. So it is better to automate such things and ensure that you make use of tools, or say there are auto push notifications going out to the candidates. Okay, so automation can help you make a great first impression with candidates. Just as important, it can help you find the right candidates faster. Okay, like I mentioned in the scrutinizing, or say the uh, you know sorting through the deluge of resumes. Okay, so automation can help you do job postings. They can push job openings on multiple sites at one in one go, in one click. Okay, like for example, there are, I would not want to name tools because I am not sponsored here. Okay, but then yes, uh, there are multiple HRMS tool or applicant tracking systems which allow you to just create one job description, and on a click they are integrated with multiple job sites like LinkedIn, like Hirist, Naukri.com, multiple job sites. Just with one click you can auto push that job opening to multiple places. Okay, and from there you will easily be able to get a response, and all the responses will also be auto pushed into the applicant tracking system. So software robots can help you sort through a deluge of resumes and CVs and find the right candidates with the right skill set. Automation can help you establish a two-way communication channel to keep candidates informed and engaged throughout the recruitment and the hiring process, so they feel recognized and respected. Now, again, there are key segments which must be automated as per my opinion or as per my experience overall, which is job advertising. You have your recruiter, putting job ads one whole day onto various websites just to fetch a response. Rather, let them work on the uh, candidates that are suiting the requirement, and talk to them and understand what they may be looking forward to, what their aspirations or dreams are in terms of their coming organization, convincing them. Recruitment is as good a job as sales. You have to sell your organization to the candidates these days. It isn't as easy as it was before, that people are in need of a job. It's the companies which are equally in need of the right set of people, or say rightly skilled people. Okay, so it has more of become a mutual requirement wherein you have to sell your organization to the candidate. Why should they be joining you over another organization which is offering somewhat similar compensation, similar things? So therein you convincing the candidate is also a job with the HR. Okay, so let HR, or say the talent teams, we be working on that part, rather than doing the job advertising, sourcing CVs, sorting CVs, doing the data collection. Nowadays we have the applicant tracking systems doing parsing the CVs on its own. Okay, so they fetch the important information, the key informations on their own by parsing the CVs and taking out the information. If at all there's a gap in between, that of course needs to be looked upon by the talent teams working around it. But otherwise it's doable. So I mean, the job gets easier, is what I would say. Then again, the interview scheduling, answering the usual candidate FAQs. Okay, a feedback survey going to the candidates to know how their interview experience and overall thing has been, and doing further analysis around the same, which further enables you to know how things are moving, how people are liking your interview process as a whole, so as to be able to consider your organization to join. Okay, so that was more about talent acquisition. I'll move forward from here. This is HR operations. So now, when you have the right fit or the match, you of course want the person to be joining now. Okay, so the work begins with the HR, from rolling out the offer letter to onboarding now. Okay, so HR operations, a workforce isn't static. Okay, there are always somebody is joining in, somebody is moving on. So it goes on and off, on and off. Okay, so there are permanent long-time employees, there are people being taken on contract, there are uh, multiple ways in which an organization engages with employees, or say onboards people. Okay, so there are set rules, set norms based on which each and every segment of this works. Okay, so permanent employees are given a set of policies, rules to go by, which needs to be equally monitored. Okay, and on the other hand, temporary ones have a different set of rules. Contractuals again have a different set of compensation and the attendance format, or say the uh, rules again, I would say. Okay, so tracking each one of them in their own capacity for few HRs who are functioning in a count of hundreds of people, it the chances of error are really high. It gets difficult, it can be confusing, it can create a lot of chaos if not handled appropriately. Now, we, of course, HRs are definitely competitive, and they do know the nitty gritties, or they do know the criticality of this particular function, so they usually manage it right. But then if we automate this segment again, it gets much easier. Rather than handling things on an Excel or a manual format, it is suggested that you rather automate things. And automation can also be as easy as automating an Excel sheet only. So not necessarily you need to buy. So we'll come on to that also, wherein what level should you consider HR automation at. So of course, if you're a organization with just about 50 odd people, it's a cakewalk. You need not have an HR automation tool in place just to handle a strength of about 50 people, wherein there may be just one or two joinings happening in a week, or say in a month, uh, and there may be maybe one or two exits again. Okay, so that does not require HR automation to that depth, wherein handling an organization wherein you have a strength of hundreds aligned to you, you definitely need support. Okay, and that support, if comes by way of manual efforts, again, a person being allocated to your team isn't going to help as much as an automation tool can. So it really depends. So we'll talk of automation, HR operations, that is. A workforce isn't static, it's always changing and evolving. New people are always starting, always others are moving on. Okay, some are permanent long time employees, others are temporary. People are gathering new skills, moving up the career ladder, again handling their career graph, changing locations. Each of those creates a lot of work for the talent teams. Okay, every day HR team has information to collect, regulations to comply with, systems to update, and reports to complete. It's a lot of work. As I mentioned before, it doesn't seem to be so with HR. It's like, they're just celebrating. No, it doesn't happen like that. There's a lot of work that we are engaged in, and this work really matters for the businesses to be able to make the smartest use of the employee skills as well as their expertise, and it helps the decision makers in the top management to understand how the workforce is functioning, what is their need to be thriving in the environment. Okay, so automation can do the work of inputting data from as basic as onboarding. How it goes is, probably you take an HRMS. There are auto onboarding processes wherein the candidate, or say the employee that you're onboarding, can feed in their documents on their own by scanning and uploading, which is being used by all big organizations, especially post COVID, once everybody was working from home. So of course HRs could not have gone to their houses to collect their documentation, so those were scanned, uploaded onto the system. There were auto files being made, the compilation was happening, the communication was happening. Okay, so people have got accustomed to that. But there are still organizations which are not very well familiar, or HRs that are not very well familiar with this part. Okay, so for them, this automation workshop really helps. Okay, so automation can keep HR operations functioning smoothly. Okay, so onboarding, we scan the documents, we upload the documents, so that's the employee doing it. makes it easy for the HR further validates the information, the inputting of data that has happened on the candidate's part, and then further processes the data further for the employment services of the employee. So we are rather servicing the employees here. I hope everybody understands that we are providing services, employment services to the employee, which is that once they join in the organization, we process their data, we ensure all the benefits are available to them, processing data for their insurance, medical insurance, as small as that, or other benefits that the organization provides, ensuring that their compensation structure is set right, to further being communicated to the departments, maybe for the IT asset that needs to be allocated for somebody joining in DevOps, or somebody joining in a development segment, or somebody joining in just sales. The system requirements do get different, so all of these things needs to be coordinated for, and then further we have to have the information going appropriately to the other support departments like accounts, etc. Okay, so the better HR runs behind the scenes, the better the business runs, and that's good for talent teams, employees, as well as the customers. So we should consider automating as much of it as possible, especially the repetitive and the laborious tasks that consume more of our time. That is how it is expected to be. Okay. So, like I mentioned, onboarding, offboarding, again, the FNF, okay, which is the final due date processing, returning the system, the getting a sign off for their no dues from various departments, that can all happen online. Why to not provide an employee with that smooth experience? We must consider that. Okay. Change in locations of people, it would not all be known to you sitting on your seat. It is something that is going to come to you. So managers equally play an important role here. They only if they support you, you can do it smoothly, otherwise things would be happening and you would not even get to know. Okay. So employee contractual updates, or say people complying or not complying by the system norms or the policies, there are going to be buzzes that you're going to receive from the system. So I don't mention that here, but attendance again is one of the most crucial things that HR automation uh, gets going with. So you cannot be tracking each and every person's attendance, and even the managers do miss out with their hectic schedules. Okay. So it's important that we have an automated tool within auto punch in, punch out, wherein we need not track individuals. If at all the attendance is missing for a day, it will auto be highlighted to you on the same day or on a weekly basis, so that you can track that. Okay. Now we come to the third segment. I hope I've made myself clear with the second segment. Okay, now we talk of compensation and benefits, delivering on employers' commitment. So many a times you all must have heard that HR has made false commitments. They've not fulfilled what they, you know, promised, or say I was given a different package, the variable was different, the structuring was different, but what was delivered was different. Okay. So it is very important that each and every HR also understands the salary structure, the compensation structure equally in depth as you explain, or say as you're expected to explain to the employees. Okay. So again, herein also automation helps. How? I will come to that later. Okay. So ultimately, we'll be talking of what draws people to a workplace. They talk of multiple things like work life balance, company culture, career advancement opportunities, technologies, etc. But the primary factor for which everybody is working and what matters the most to everyone is ultimately the compensation and the benefits that the company has to offer. They will always rank near the top of a candidate's list and choosing one opportunity another. In the COVID, or say during the past, say 2 years, not lately in the 6 months, but 2 years prior. Okay, we've seen people comparing their compensation getting hikes over the offer already in hand with them, because the so I'm talking about the technology sector particularly over here. They had offers in hand, and they were, competing between the offers. They were showing or flashing their offers to the other organizations, getting a better offer from there, and then from the third one. This ways people have taken about 200% to 250% to 300% hikes in their compensation. Okay, doubling or tripling their compensation, which has costed them now, because the companies are not able to bear with the cost anymore and are laying off people now, which we see happening. Okay, but then that was the scenario. So ultimately what matters is the compensation is what they clearly showed, and people were honest enough to accept, or say candid enough to accept that it's ultimately the money that they're running behind. Okay, so the compensation and benefits of any organization do definitely matter to people, and it's ultimately for the money that they're working, may it be anyone. So, though I do not say that should be the only thing, but then that is how it is, unfortunately. Okay. So with automation, you can streamline the compensation process, also making payroll changes, updating dedicated systems. Okay. Software robots can enroll employees in benefit programs and track the utilization. So of course, with the high compensation structures come in the flexi benefits that people look at in order to save their taxes, etc. So all that needs a lot of documentation, a lot of tracking. Okay, which eventually can be uh, made easy by way of automation. Automation can even help you source, analyze salary benchmarking data. Okay, which is to have that competitive edge in the market as to what my competitor is offering and what I should be offering. Okay, so as to not be out of the league and to be in consideration and in demand with the candidate to join. Okay, there's no more important job for an employer than ensuring that employees get paid and can access their benefits on time, which provides a lot of satisfaction to them, to the employees, that is. Okay, automation makes it easier to do those jobs with greater efficiency and fewer mistakes. Okay. So compensation and benefits, as we talk of, payroll processing can be automated. Nowadays, many people are doing that. It can be done with something as small as just a table format with Excel. There are set salaries. So even a small company can do that, automating there. Okay. And then, of course, with payroll tools, again, now here I don't suggest you taking a separate tool for your payroll, a separate tool for your HR automation, a separate tool for your applicant tracking, which is for the talent acquisition piece, because it becomes again feeding a lot of data, because ultimately these tools function on data. Their food is data. Okay, so if you end up feeding data in one, two, and three systems, then it's not easing your job the way we want it to be. It is rather that you should consider the tools which offer a one-stop solution, and there are many in the market, and there are many that I can vouch for. But yes, do consider that your job is made easy than being made complex, because adapting to a new system for each and everything becomes really cumbersome, and it's not just you doing it, it's the accounts team doing it, it's the IT team, the employees who are ultimately getting you have to make them accustomed to these, to the use of these particular softwares. Okay, so it is something that you should keep in mind. So payroll compensation can be automated, there can be analytical reports being drawn. Okay, benchmarking can be done. Now when we talk of equity, again, many companies offer ESOPs to their employees. Who keeps a track of that? HR would go round and round in circles with these ESOPs, and they will ultimately end up routing people to the accounts team. Okay, so it's better to provide tools wherein HR and accounts is also in sync for their answers. It is really important, because many a times we have seen employees running between these departments to get their answers, and ultimately it frustrates them big time. Okay, so it isn't appropriate. We should have an automated tool to answer wherein we are also synchronized with other support teams for our answers. And of course, rewards, again, comes a part of it. Okay, these automation tools can help on the engagement piece also. I have not taken that, but then yes, that was a part of the HR operations, to engage, to retain, to draw reports on the uh, attrition or retention, and all of that could have, I mean, reports come of great use there. Okay, so HR's automated future, we'll talk of. If we automate, work isn't just something that we do to put food on the table and roof on our heads. It's not just to do that we do. Okay, it can help us find a purpose where we, build a lasting friendship. It can help us stretch our talents and strive to be more. Okay, it can help us grow as well as the employees grow with us, having that satisfaction that we are there to actually support and not just, uh, employ, or say just provide a job to them. Okay, so that's why the work with the talent team does, I mean, the work the talent team does is very important. It's the team's role to make going to work more than just a job. Okay, ultimately, as I always say, we spend about 12 hours at work, commuting to the job, coming back from the job, and in the job. So that's the first place we spend most of our time in, and it should be a really, say, lively, peaceful, happy place to be, because the remaining 12 hours we have at home, we are mostly sleeping. Okay, so we live most of our lives in the workplace, and the happier, easier, and more cordial it is, the better it is going to be for us. And automation can help HR stay true to its mission by taking repetitive, rule based work off the to do list, so talent teams can stay focused on what really matters and strategically contributing to the organizations. Okay, so this is the data that I have drawn. HR spends 25% more time recruiting in 2022. Like I told you, there was a lot of chaos happening around the recruitments. There were people taking offers, not joining. There was a lot of time going by the HRs. They were really busy from 2020 to 2022, being working from home, adapting to, getting things done while they just be at home. It was really difficult. Okay, 51% of the HR managers primarily use manual, multi-step Excel and paper-based processes to deliver services, which should not be the case. Okay, I expect that by we are already running in the 20th century, and rather, India is also developing at a very fast pace. By now, we should be more and more towards automation, not depending on people for certain things. Okay, because whether the HR comes in or not, the employee attendance needs to be monitored. Whether the HR comes in or not, there are certain services that the employees will need, and they cannot be waiting for your answers until you join back, or say you return from your leave. So there are certain things that absolutely need to be automated. Okay, so automated processes for new hires, transfer and departure processing help with 10x improvement in processing speed, and there's 100% accuracy. Okay, I've seen that systems are not making those errors because the people, or say the talent teams, which are burdened with more work, ultimately end up making errors which are not acceptable or expected to be. Okay, so with this, I would, rest my case. I would say that, you focus and consider having automation in place for the HR work that you are involved in, or the companies that you are with. Again, considering the level of the organization, you must consider automation happening at a certain stage. Now, that stage we can definitely talk of again in maybe the next session, as to what stage the automation should be considered. Okay, I'm open to your question answers. Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen here, and thank you. Ritamra, I think you should allow people to be questioning, and
Yeah, ma'am. The questions are in the chat box. You can answer there.
The questions are already there in the chat box, as you say. Okay, just a second. Are there any potential downsides, risks associated with over reliance on automation in nature, and how can they be mitigated? Okay. Well, the downside risks, or say potential risks, are that, if you do not monitor that automated system, they can be employees fooling around the system, because ultimately they are the ones who've made the system. So since I come from a software company, uh, I really know this piece, because they know how the system works. So since they have made the system, they know how the system works, they can easily fool the system too. Okay. So from that aspect, there can be a downside risk associated here, wherein the system may fetch what the employee is wanting to feed and not the actuals. Okay. So herein, the monitoring of that automation is a thing which would not take too much of your time. It's just a overlook onto the system, maybe in 15 minutes of your day, whoever is onto it. Okay. Ensuring that the data fed, again, people not making use of it is another downside of HR automation. So say people are not getting accustomed to the system that you have bought in for the automation. Okay. Then you ultimately end up doing both. You are on one side working on the automation, as well as on the other side working, making the same manual efforts, because so it gets heavy in the beginning, I would say. Okay. But there are no other as such downside, or say risks associated with the system. Automation always supports you in the long run. In the initial phase, it might become a little heavy for you to digest or get going with, but then yes, in the long run it would not have any downsides for you to uh, go by. And in terms of the data that is fed onto the system, the risk can be mitigated by monitoring it, uh, you know, on a weekly basis, or say on a daily basis, with whatever scope you have with you. Okay. Okay, so somebody is questioning if there would be an open mic or not. So I would give you time for open mic. I would love interacting with all of you. Uh, okay, so you can ask your question. That is Vagish Mishra. Okay, okay. How does automation in HR affect job roles and career prospects for individuals interested in pursuing a career in HR? So, if you're pursuing your career in HR, of course, you have to firstly understand the processes. Okay, but then ensure that the ones which are not as important, like maintaining an employee database, is a very important aspect for any organization and the HR. Okay, if you do not have the appropriate details or data in place, you cannot make specific decisions. But simultaneously, this data thing is not a very say know-how job. It's a very simple thing. It's just feeding in the data. So this is a laborious thing to do than the strategic contribution that you would want to provide. Okay. So herein automation comes in place, wherein you can automatedly have the data uh, processing happening, or say reports being drawn analytically around the same, as to what kind of decisions should be made. That is your major role. So automation in HR overall, whether you be on in the very beginning phase of it, or on the top line of it, it helps big time. Okay. What can be the negative impact of HR automation? Can the job? No, nobody loses their job. You just have to be on top of the automation. Okay. Okay. So the question I'll repeat here is, I've straight off answered it in haste. Okay. But then this Mr. Vigesh asks that what can be the negative impact of HR automation? Can it result in job losses, security breaches, and biasness in algorithms, employee resistance, skill gaps, and so how they can be reduced. Okay. uh, HR automation cannot result in job losses, especially for HR. That is how I perceived it to be. Okay. So you have to be on top of the HR automation. You need to know your things right, how automation rather helps than being a threat to you. So if you're just on a basic job, you just know the operational, you just have the operational understanding of the HR job, then of course, in the long run, you'll get obsolete. You would not be required for a simple reason that you are just going by processing the data, administrative tasks, doing the paperwork, etc. You are to be a logical HR which has to strategically be contributing to the system, be a business partner to the business. Okay, be contributing in all your strength as a human being, thinking how the HR processes need to be modified, or say facilitating the people so as to be able to attract the talent, okay, or so as to be able to retain the talent. So there are multiple aspects to HR. I mean, it's not that short an answer that I can, give. There's so much coming onto my mind around this question. Okay, but yes, they cannot be. I would not say there are any security breaches that happen through the automation of HR. There is no. Rather, it will provide you loopholes, or it would provide you some points wherein you will be able to catch these security breaches, which otherwise would have not been caught. Okay, at times you might not know of, or say you might not be able to track the email. So many a times we come across, I'm giving very petty examples, we come across people applying for leaves wherein they are applying for a sick leave and talking of their kids being sick. So does that, is it anyhow applicable? It isn't, right? The kid is sick, they are supposed to apply for a casual leave, or maybe a earned leave in case they don't have a casual leave balance, but then they end up applying for a sick leave. How do you catch hold of it? Okay, on email, if you're really free, you might just revert that, okay, please change the leave category, or you may mark it differently. But then in an automation tool, this can be monitored, this can be managed, this can be set right automatically, that it would not accept. Okay, so the most basic example I've given you. Okay, there's no biasness in algorithms. Okay, it will be as you set it forth. So the HR, HRMS systems, or say the HCMs, that is human capital management systems coming in place, are adaptable to the way you would want to set it. Okay, so there is no negatives that I see here. Okay, and you would not need to you know be fearful of the downsides of it. Rather, it can facilitate you, just that you have to apply your brains and ensure that you have it set right for the kind of organization and the policies that you're running with. Okay, skill gaps again are something that is highlighted by the automation systems better. Okay, so we draw the skill, or say the skill matrix, I would say. Okay, there's a skill matrix being drawn onto the automation systems with hundreds of people. You can't keep a track of each and everybody's skills, and you would not even remember. Okay, you drawing it on Excel, then comparing it, or with drawing a analysis around the same by getting some pivots in place, etc., isn't going to help. Skill gaps are highlighted way, way, way better by the automated systems. But again, the data needs to be fed right. The biggest challenge for you to automate HR is going to be the acceptance of that HR automation by the employees. For that, you have to make great efforts. You have to be effective in that part of your HR automation journey. That is the biggest challenge that you're going to face. Okay, I'll move on to the next question. How can students preparing for career in HR stay updated on the latest trends and development in HR automation? Of course, you have to be attending to webinars like this. Okay, and then apart from that, there are every now and then vlogs coming around HR automation. Okay, stay onto the HR communities and keep reading as to what is the uh, change in the trend in HR. That's going to help you. Okay. Further, what advice you give to students interested in knowing a career in HR regarding the role of automation in shaping the future of the profession? So, see, ultimately, you first be the HR. HR does not mean just handling human resources, it is understanding the human psyche, how a human psyche works. You yourself are an employee, you know what you need from the organization. If provided with what is your reaction to it? Okay, with all of that, you have to ensure as an HR that you balance it out and you benefit the management too, and they are not being exploited by the employees. Okay, so that getting that balance in place is the HR's job. Now, making use of automation systems is just for the repetitive and the laborious tasks. I am repeating this again and again. It is just the usual cumbersome tasks that I tell you to automate, okay, which are considerably the basics. Okay, so if somebody is into the system, their attendance, their compensation, onboarding, documentation, these are the basics of HR. Basics को automate करके we have to move forward, strategically contributing, ensuring that with our strategic contribution, the employees are more satisfied, the employees are more happy. We focus more on engagement, more on building that connect of the employee with the organization, that they are not able to leave easily. Okay, so with all of that is how you can be a great HR professional. Okay, we'll move forward to the next question. How does automation impact the human aspect of HR, such as relations and interpersonal communication? So it frees your time. It gives you more time to have that human interaction. HR automation, if it takes on the paperwork and the unnecessary say tasks off your plate, you have more time to build those relations, do the interpersonal communication, understand people, get going with them, uh, take new ideas for the betterment of people in the organization, move or say suggest those ideas further to the management, see what could be worked around with. Okay, so how can HR professionals maintain a balance between automation and the human touch in their interaction with employees? Again, automation is completely something else and the interaction is another. It is just automation is to just free up your time to have more interaction. I have been repeating this in all of the questions. Automation comes into the picture to ease your work, get you more time to interact, to strategically contribute, to understand, and add to the human aspect. Okay, so that's what HR automation facilitates you with. It is not going to impact your job, take on the tasks. Chat GPT does not do that. Chat GPT, again, even if AI comes into the picture, it will add an edge for you to be able to get more productive for the organization and do something which used to take you 15 minutes in just 5 minutes. So that's giving you 10 more minutes to do something else, maybe execute 3 more things. Okay, so that's how automation or AI or anything is helping you. It is making you more productive, it is giving you more time, it is not posing a threat to you anyhow. Okay, so you get more time and be more productive for the organization, and by virtue of the same you are also appreciated, or say accepted more by the organization and valued. Okay, so HR is becoming a very valued is okay. I am getting more questions here. Is it easy to use HR software, and if it is, how? They're as easy as Instagram. Okay, so HR systems are not complex at all. Feeding data, do you think it's going to be difficult. It's just entering details in the field. While you may be applying for jobs, you are already filling in their HRMS or a part of their HRMS, which is maybe the applicant tracking system. You're just feeding in your data. If you have been applying to jobs, I think there are more of HR uh, MBA students or something um, who have joined us. Okay, so if it is that, then while you apply for the jobs online, you see a part of the HRMS feeding your name, uploading your CV, feeding your other details, answering certain questions. It's already a part of the HRMS or the applicant tracking system that you're making a use of. How difficult do you think it is? So it's all as easy as that. You just need to get accustomed to it. Probably in the very beginning phase of Instagram, you did not know how to make reels. Now you know how to make reels. Now you know how to edit the video clips on your own without any external help, add music to it. So it's as easy as using that. Okay, you get to draw your dashboards in the HRMS with just one click. You know what report to utilize where in the long run once you are accustomed to using it. Okay, and so will be the case with your employees. Ultimately, it's not just you that is going to use the HRMS. It's going to be the employees who are going to use the HRMS, feed data onto it, based on which you're going to get insights without getting to their table, without having too many meetings with them, without interrupting their time, without hampering your own time. Otherwise you would have gone to them, their managers, had meetings, know, understand what their value, what their inputs are, what their feedback is. Here in HRMS, if used appropriately, again, will help you uh, draw the insights without getting into indulging into those meetings. So I think I've pretty much answered all the questions that I had in the chat. Ritambra, I request you to please allow people to question if at all they have any. You may raise your hand, and Ritambra can probably unmute your mic.
Okay, ma'am, just give me a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. First of all, thank you for answering all the questions. So I would just now conclude. So as we bring the curtain down on yet another enlightening session of our 2024 webinar series, I stand before you with a heart brimming with gratitude and inspiration. Today we have the privilege and gratitude to hear from you. That is a true visionary in the realm of human resources. Ms. Behel, inspirations into the changing world of human resources have illuminated and understood. We are empowered that you have given us the invaluable knowledge. So Ms. Bell has provided us with a roadmap to success in the digital landscape. As we bid farewell to Ms. Behel and reflect on the insightful gain, let us carry forward the teachings of her with us. As well as on behalf of the entire Deltron team, I extend our deepest gratitude to Ms. Behel for her illuminating contribution to our webinar series. And once again, I extend my heartfelt thanks to our distinguished speaker for their invaluable contribution to all the participants for the active engagement and thoughtful questions, and to our organizing team for their dedication in this webinar series and responding success. And my dear audience, let us continue our journey of learning and discovering with renowned vigor and enthusiasm of learnings of her. And until stay inspired, stay informed, and keep pushing the boundaries of possibility. And once again, I thank you all until we meet again. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, Ritambra. Okay, it was a wonderful experience interacting with all of you. And I mean, I am also thankful to Deltron as well as Whiteboard Foundation for arranging for these sessions, because it does definitely help people, and it does definitely bridge the gap between the education and the corporates. So I hope people make use of the same. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, ma'am.